Caribbean Newsline is brought to you by the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc.
The Guyana government accuses the opposition of inciting violence. Our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Friday, September 20th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. Opposition leader Barrett Jagdeo and the People's Progressive Party presidential candidate Irfan Ali are being accused of inciting violence against President David Granger and government ministers during the execution of their official duties. The Ministry of the Presidency leveled the charge on Friday, a day after opposition supporters prevented two government ministers from entering the Pegasus Hotel, where they were to attend the Guyana Manufacturing and Services Association's business luncheon, and then later disrupted Granger as he addressed the event where he was a guest speaker. The ministry condemned those actions as intolerable hooliganism and thuggery. It said the lawlessness exhibited was not akin to a democratic political protest, but rather was a display of gross disrespect for the president, his office, the government, and the occasion. On Thursday, Jagdeo threatened to continue targeting Granger with peaceful protests wherever he goes until he calls a date for elections. But the government said such actions would not be tolerated, and the president would use every lawful measure to guarantee the safety of ministers and prevent a breakdown of law and order in the country. Meantime, the minority party in Guyana's coalition government, the Alliance for Change, AFC, is calling on the opposition PPP to return to Parliament to extend the life of the government until elections are held. The AFC says the PPP should return now that the chair of the Ghana Elections Commission has indicated that the elections body will be ready for the polls by February next year. The Ghana Constitution calls for elections to take place 3 months after the passage of a no-confidence motion or at a later time as agreed to by 2/3 of the National Assembly. The opposition would have to vote with the government to give it that majority, but it has repeatedly said it will do no such thing. At a press conference on Friday, AFC leader and Public Security Minister Kemraj Ramjatan said the government has been upholding the Constitution and following the orders of the Caribbean Court of Justice made in July in relation to the no-confidence motion which was passed last December. Dominica's Prime Minister Roosevelt Scarrett has appealed for unity and an end to political tribalism as the country gears up for general elections. He made the call on Thursday night while addressing a memorial and Thanksgiving service to mark the 2nd anniversary of the passing of Hurricane Maria. Dominicans have been in campaign mode, even though Scarrett has not yet given a date for the next polls. Last week, when he addressed the launch of another candidate for his Dominica Labour Party, he gave the strongest indication yet that an announcement is imminent. Scarrett told the audience at the Windsor Park Stadium in the capital on Thursday night that it's time for Dominicans to unite and work together for the sake of the country.
We must invest in our future through our collective efforts to build Dominica, and most important, by putting an end to the dangerous and divisive political tribalism and polarization that is keeping us apart and stopping some from giving their best to our country and to each other. The division is a plague on our national identity and sense of unity as a people. Just as we restored broken homes and roadways, just as we replanted lost crops, just as we pieced our country back together, we must now sow seeds of national unity, binding up old wounds and creating an environment of peace, of national unity, and a common and collective consciousness of who we are, what we are capable of, and a belief in our capacity to inject new dynamism in Dominica.
Hurricane Jerry is posing a flood risk to parts of the northern Leeward Islands as it moves closer, though weaker. It's expected to produce 1 to 3 inches of rainfall, with isolated maximum totals of 4 to 6 inches from Barbuda northwest across St. Martin and Anguilla, which forecasters say may produce life-threatening flash floods. The hurricane, with maximum sustained winds near 80 miles per hour, is about 140 miles north of Barbuda and about 120 miles northeast of Anguilla, and moving towards the northwest at 18 miles per hour. Jerry is forecast to move north of the northern Leeward Islands later on Friday, pass well north of Puerto Rico tomorrow, Saturday, and be well east-northwest east of the southeastern Bahamas on Sunday and turn northward on Monday. While Bermuda is not under any watches or warnings right now, but with Hurricane Jerry possibly a threat to the tiny Caribbean island early next week, officials are not taking any chances. On Friday morning, as the country was returning to normal following the cleanup from Hurricane Humberto, which toppled trees and poles and blew off roofs when it passed on Wednesday night, the Bermuda Weather Service said the hurricane is forecast to pass about 390 miles from Bermuda next Monday at 6 a.m., although it did warn the system may move closer to the island after that time, depending on its track.
Now it's doing the turn up from the Antilles up round to Bermuda. It's making that bend, and that's where it's always unpredictable, the speed and the intensity. Some models have it going down to a tropical storm. Some models have it maintaining its current strength. So if this storm does impact us, we're looking at something late Monday to Tuesday sometime. Again, it's a lot early to tell, but we need to have that out there because people have their storm shutters up. They got in hurricane preparedness mode, and we don't want people to take it all down with the forecast that we have.
And that was Steve Cosham, National Disaster Coordinator, speaking at a press conference on Thursday morning. National Security Minister Wayne Keynes also urged residents to stay ready.
We have just come through the phase of Humberto. Let's keep our level of being prepared up. Go and make sure that the cars are filled with gas. Keep the houses stacked with food. Make sure that everything that we've done to prepare for Hurricane Humberto, that we keep that level of preparedness going right through to Hurricane Jerry. Do not let your guard down. Do not rest on your laurels. Oh, we made it unscathed to Hurricane Humberto, so you start taking everything down. It is our recommendation that you leave things boarded up, that you remain in a state of readiness. If you remain in a state of readiness, that means you do not have to rush to prepare for the storm that Hurricane Jerry that's coming. You're in a state of readiness, and all you have to do is augment or top up your fuel and top up your groceries, and make sure that you just, if you had a few things that have blown down in your yard, you can make sure that you've taken the debris out. You're encouraging everyone to stay at a high state of readiness.
And responding to a question about whether residents needed to be as concerned about Jerry as they were about Humberto, which was a Category 3 hurricane when it arrived, the minister was adamant that this latest storm should not be taken lightly.
Notion that they should not be hyper vigilant with reference to Jerry is misguided. The information that we will give from this podium and from any voice speaking for the Bermuda government is to prepare for the hurricane as if it was a Category 5. We believe that you can always be ready, but sometimes it's too late to get ready. So what we want the public to do is, you're ready now. Let's top up your provisions. Let's make sure the house remains boarded up. We want everybody to stay hyper vigilant. The only reason why we saw no loss of life was the fact that we were prepared. The reason why we're up here so far in advance, the reason why the EMO is meeting so far in advance, it allows people to make informed decisions. I need to get my medication. I need to get my kids sorted. I need to get my house sorted. I need to get some gas for my machine. We are giving our public information in good enough time so they can make wise, life-saving decisions.
Coming up in Caribbean Newsline, Jamaica passes its final IMF test. The details after the break. Stay with us.
Coming up on Caribbean Passport, highlights of a memorable CariFesta 14 in Port of Spain, Trinidad and Tobago. The creativity of the Caribbean and all that the region has to offer was on full display. Celebrate our Festival of Arts as we strengthen the bond between us on Caribbean Passport, the CariFesta edition, right here on this station.
Jamaica has passed the final assessment under the standby agreement with the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, and Prime Minister Andrew Holness says it's a major milestone in the country's economic history. He expressed confidence that with the IMF now out of the room, the government can maintain the fiscal discipline that Jamaica has committed to over the last decade. We get more in this TVJ News report.
Jamaica's standby arrangement with the International Monetary Fund IMF will come to an end on November 8, 2019. But that date will be for mere formalities after IMF and the Jamaican authorities confirmed on Wednesday that the country had completed the final review of the standby arrangement. The 3-year deal, which started in 2016, came in place after the initial 4-year deal with the IMF. The policymakers paid tribute to the Jamaican people for their sacrifices, most notably groups like the police and teachers for holding strain by accepting slim increases in their wages during the period.
The success that we recognize today is a Jamaican story that is recognized around the world, and it is wholly and completely attributable to the work, effort, and sacrifice of the Jamaican people.
After discussions, it was agreed that the IMF offices in Jamaica will remain open for the next 2 years. This means the country will still be able to call on the Multilateral Lending Agency for advice. Commitments were also given by local policymakers to continue the work to create a fiscal council and to make the Bank of Jamaica BOJ more independent. But now that some of the hardest parts of the figurative belt-tightening measures are over, what will this mean for the common man? Well, the IMF representatives gave their blessings to plans by the state to spend to reduce crime and poverty by freeing up funds through changes in the public sector.
Achieving Jamaica's considerable potential requires further attention to structural reforms to address crime, enhance access to finance, support agricultural resilience, and invest in education and healthcare. We welcome the government's ongoing commitment to expanding social assistance for the vulnerable. We are convinced that all these policies will support private sector development and increase investment opportunities in Jamaica that will lead to increased employment, growth, and the continued reduction of poverty in the next 5 years.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness, as he sought to temper expectations, said whatever is spent going forward will be in the best interest of all Jamaicans.
That doesn't mean that there won't be people who will stand up in Parliament, which I have heard, and say, well, you have money now, so you can spend. Let me very quickly say that is not how it will be done.
Meantime, former IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde has praised Jamaica for its remarkable accomplishments under its financial arrangements with the fund. She said that through 2 programs and 2 different administrations with very strong commitment, Jamaica has managed to actually create jobs, reduce the unemployment level to the lowest ever, reduce debt by 50% of GDP, stabilize inflation, and accumulate reserves. Lagarde said the achievements were not only due to good macroeconomic policies, but also to the government's own creativity and the way it got everybody on board with the journey. A trade union in Trinidad and Tobago has been successful in its effort to take ownership of the closed state-owned oil refinery Petrotrin. Government says the oil field workers trade unions company Patriotic Energies and Technologies Companies Limited, PET, is the preferred bidder. PET was one of 3 bidders. Finance Minister Com Imbert made the announcement in Parliament on Friday. He said the company indicated upfront cash of $700 million plus $300 million for the non-core assets of legacy Petrotrin. Over in Grenada, police have confirmed 1 casualty following an incident along the Guyana, the island's main port, early Friday, in which a bus plunged into the sea. In a news briefing at the scene of the accident, Chief Traffic Investigator Ryan Smith said 15 passengers, including a baby, were rescued by 2 fishermen and a police officer. A 65-year-old woman was pronounced dead at the hospital, and a 9-year-old girl remains in the intensive care unit. All the other passengers were treated and discharged. The driver of the bus is in police custody, assisting with the investigations. Ahead in Newsline Sport, St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots record their 3rd victory against Jamaica Tallawahs as CPL action continues. We'll be right back.
As a small business owner, you have to make sure your technology is available and operational at all times. But what happens when your network crashes, your email goes down, or your user systems get a virus? You may try to fix the issue yourself, but you can end up making the problem a lot worse. At Digital Networking Solutions, we're more than just people who try to fix your computers. We monitor, maintain, and support your IT systems so that you can focus on growing your business to its fullest potential. When you sign up for one of our IT support plans, we get familiar with your IT environments beforehand, so we can manage it proactively as if it were our own. Your business deserves the best IT services available to ensure it functions to its maximum efficiency. So give us a try today. Email or call us, and we will give you a free network assessment to determine whether now is the time for your small business to adopt Digital Networking Solutions for a smoother, more reliable network experience.
How do you feel about a woman working and being a wife?
So, in what way? I mean,
And like, would you prefer her to be outside of the home or inside the home?
to me, both. I grew up from the South, so my wife always says my mom was like super mom, but, she was also superintendent of Jackson County School District, but she also was a mother. So she took care of me and my sister, my dad, so she, did everything. So I wasn't raised with a woman only saying just staying at home.
For sports, an unbeaten half-century by Fabian Allen and 2 wickets each from Riyad Emirates and Sheldon Cottrell landed St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots their 3rd victory against host Jamaica Tallawahs in match 20 of the Caribbean Premier League on Thursday. Sent in at Sabina Park, the Patriots posted a total of 172 for 6 from their 20 overs, and they won by 20 runs. Allen played an instrumental role in helping the visitors reach the total with a well-played 62, which included 7 fours and 3 sixes. Mohamed Hafiz chipped in with 37, while middle-order batsman Kieron Kotoy added 27 from 23 deliveries. But Glenn Phillips' knock of 87 in the Tallawahs' reply was equally entertaining, although to a losing effort, as the hosts were bundled out for 156 in 19.5 overs. Emirates picked up figures of 2 for 21, while Cottrell captured 2 wickets for 33 runs. The governing body for table tennis in Jamaica could be heading back to the polls very soon. This after a court ruling declared its internal elections null and void. Back in May, presidential contender Karen Sinclair Lynn challenged the legitimacy of the incumbent's re-election following claims of constitutional breaches at the annual general meeting. And lawyers for Sinclair Lynn believe it's time for fresh elections. TVJ Sports' Renarda Brown reports.
President or not? That seemed to be the question now in regards to Godfrey Lothian's leadership of Table Tennis Jamaica, or should I say, the Jamaica Table Tennis Association.
As a result of the ruling, Mr. Lothian is not president of anything, and Table Tennis Jamaica does not exist.
The decision to grant the annulment of the election was made on Tuesday at the Supreme Court. In a story carried by TVJ Sports in May, Mrs. Sinclair Lim challenged the process by which the association's constitution was changed on January 28. She also challenged the election process at TTJ's annual general meeting, the number of clubs and affiliates that took part in voting on both occasions, and the move to have the association name changed to Table Tennis Jamaica. Attorney for Mrs. Sinclair Lim, Douglas Thompson, explains the reason behind the decision by the Supreme Court to grant the orders to his client.
They had not responded to our claim at all. So procedurally, they were totally out of time. However, at about after 3 the day before, an affidavit was filed. But the affidavit did not put forward a defense. In fact, the affidavit actually was agreeing with what our complaint was and what we were claiming that was improper.
The thing was served on us the 9th of May, and we, in terms of Table Tennis Jamaica, financially, does not have this large proportion of money to pay lawyers. So we have to be juggling.
TVJ Sports obtained a copy of the affidavit submitted by Lothian, signed September 16 in response to Mrs. Sinclair Lim's claims. Point 15 confirms a walkout at the AGM and the absence of some reports, but throughout the document, no mention of the presentation of the association's audited finances. Lothian's affidavit also cited challenges faced with the registration of TTJ with the Companies Office of Jamaica. So with the special meeting and the AGM now declared null and void, what's next for the parties involved?
At this juncture, I believe that I think going back to the polls would be inevitable. But my confidence is still there, given the support I know Mr. Lothian has, that he'll be reinstated and that this thing will just, pass. As a matter of time, it will pass. And I believe that if we just have a meeting for both parties and we can flesh out certain things, that we can see a change in the very near future.
Switching sports now, the Guyana Football Federation has made public its report on the country's youth program in an effort to bring about transparency in the management of the sport. We get more in this report from HGP Sport.
The Guyana Football Federation has made public the reports of its youth tournament as the federation seeks to enable transparency and accountability. The key tournaments, National Under 15, 17 and 20, which serves to inform the GFF's youth development strategy, has been executed with support from long-standing partners Pili Alumni, National Milling Company, Namelco, and new partner Kentucky Fried Chicken. The report, among other things, captured the tournaments executed, participating regional member associations, teams, match fixtures and results, goal scores, highlights, as well as challenges. However, due to partner confidentiality agreement, financial information is not included. President Wayne Ford said the release of the report is now part of the standing operating procedure of the GFF. The Executive Committee has always emphasized transparency and accountability as part of its key value, and this extends to the operation of the Secretariat. Ford added that reports of national and international tournaments would also be part of the GFF's SOP and made public.
And finally, all eyes will be on Juice Man as the Arima Sports Club gets set to host the prestigious Carib Brewery Trinidad Derby on September 24th. It will be the final race of the annual Triple Crown. TTT's Ken Fuentes tells us more.
10 horses will compete in the derby for the $165,000 purse in the final leg of the local Triple Crown. Glenn Mendez is confident his charge, Juice Man, will be ready on race day.
Basically comfortable. Things have been going according to plan. Jusman is well. The program has gone well. We have a final piece of work to do tomorrow morning. And once he comes out of that okay, you know, just easy street and hope for the best on race day.
Making headlines will run out of Gate 5 and is one of trainer John O'Brien's 5 horses in the race. The veteran trainer is hoping to pull out an upset on his rival and friend Glenn Mendez, whose horse is the one to beat.
What has happened over the year, you can see that Apocalypse was second in the Easter Guineas and second in the Midsummer Classic. So you would have to think that he would be the premier one of my 5. But making headlines, who had started off the year pretty well, has had a setback, and he's now coming back to his best, and I expect that he'll run pretty well.
Newly installed president of the Arima Race Club, Robert Bernard, believes the association with Car Brewery as the main sponsor for the Republic Day and the races speaks volumes, and promised under his tenure there will be a new approach to the industry.
I give my assurance that the vision of the new management committee of the Arima Race Club involves the re-engineering and reorganizing of all aspects of the horse racing industry. We are confident that this thrust will augur well for exciting times ahead.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
Several key Tobago House of Assembly projects are ongoing, and to ensure they remain both on time and on schedule, THA Chief Secretary Honorable Kelvin Charles led a tour of the projects recently. Also on the tour were Councillor Kwesi Devines, the Secretary of Infrastructure, Quarries and the Environment, and a technical advisor at the Infrastructure Division, Telshon Mark Wellington. The team's first stop was Thompson River Bridge in Lowlands.
Major developments of this day, the Guyana government accuses the opposition of inciting violence against the president and ministers as they execute their duties. And in sport, St. Kitts and Nevis Patriots land their 3rd victory against Jamaica Tallawahs in the Caribbean Premier League. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanonNews.com. For more of our programming, log on to CaribVision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We'll be back here again on Monday, but from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have yourselves a good night.